Hello, everybody. Welcome to Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that with CFO services. But today, let's talk about guests. Y'all know we try to bring out the best people. And we want to do like good people, not just because you're famous. We want solid people, like family oriented people. So with me today, I got Logan Hughes, owner of HITE Digital, Manchester. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself, and we're gonna jump into it because I know we got plenty of good stuff to get into. But
Yeah.
Logan, bro, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I appreciate you having me on, man. Again, seeing the content that you're producing is really great. Again, I appreciate the value. Yeah, my name is Logan Hughes. I am a franchise owner at High Digital Manchester, New Hampshire. I don't know if haven't heard of High Digital before. There's like I believe 20 other franchises across the country. We are one of the only agencies that really have a franchise model, and yeah, it's been a crazy journey, man. I merged with Height over. It's been a year now since last July. Um, we've had the transition was pretty crazy in itself, but there was a lot that led up to it. Being a solo business owner at the time, for the 2 years prior was tough as you can imagine. So being able to join forces with a much larger marketing agency really helped everything from not only the fulfillment side of things, but from a sales side and project management. So it's been a really amazing year so far. Um, and yeah, just a little bit about me. I graduated at school with a graphic design degree. I've always been a creative person at heart. Recorded music back in the day and everything. So when I was at my previous job prior to having my own marketing agency, I was really sitting behind a computer all day looking at Excel sheets. I was handling logistics for a medical device company. And I talk about this a lot, but it got to a point where 7 years in, I was just, it felt like my soul was being like sucked from my body. Like I was in a bad depressive state. So I had to figure out something really quick in order to not only provide for my family, because the job at the time was great. It was benefits and everything, paid well, it was comfortable. Um, but again, it got to a point where I was just really, really unhappy. So, I found an old. This was several years ago. So I found the Ty Lopez social media management course that I'm sure everyone caught wind of at one point. S- started figuring out like, wow, you can actually create posts for businesses and get paid for it. That's pretty crazy. So, I started there and eventually found my way into web design, which is where everything really sort of took off. So been building websites now for several years on multiple different platforms, and that's where I was able to kind of use my creative ability and also help people. It was just those two things that I really needed to figure out. So that's what led me on my marketing journey, and up to this point right now, man, it's been a crazy year to say the most.
All right, see, there's a lot to get into right there. I said, perfect opening intro. Everybody take note. That's how you introduce yourself. All right, let's go there. So, of course, we talk about family. So, that's two big points. So,
Mhm.
first thing, all right, babe, I got this huge job,
Mhm.
but I'm not feeling right. I just feel like there's more. It's not bringing out the best of me. I want to start my own business.
Mhm.
Wife says,
She said go for it. She said go for it. There was no in My wife has always been extremely supportive of everything that I've done, which is just an amazing thing. She never pushed back or gave me any type of resistance on that. And this was literally at a time where we went from having no benefits, benefits to no benefits, right? Because just cutting it off, going from
right.
having everything structured and whatnot to how do I get benefits now? Like what are we doing here? Type of deal. She had my back, man, and I think that's just if it. I keep saying if it wasn't for her, I'd be God knows where. I mean, right? So she's been able to hold me down and whatnot. But very, very important to have her on the same page, right? Because if she was feeling any other way than that, it would definitely be a different discussion. But the fact that she was able to be like, I believe in you. I see the vision here. I think we can make it work. Definitely a testament to where I am now, man. Yep.
That's what's up, man. See, I've been there when you going from that big corporate job and you like, man, none of y'all need to get sick. Don't don't fall nowhere.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
mean nothing.
Mhm,
If your throat scratchy, just get you some Benadryl. Like, no. So yeah, I
yeah.
remember the place. Okay, okay. So she's super supportive. So
Mhm,
now you're on your solo agency journey for 2 years, and then this opportunity comes up. So I know, knowing you, being the
mhm,
great husband, you like, babe, what do you think? This is what I
mhm.
think. These are the facts. This is how I feel about it. She says,
Let's do it. Yeah, again, man, she's had my back through a lot of this, and it was really a no brainer. I mean, it was a no brainer all around. There was a little bit of an investment that needed to go into it, which we ultimately got covered. But in terms of what we really looked at it was, so I was sort of operating at the time as basically like a freelancer, right? Like I had an LLC, everything was sort of, I had the business set up, but I think personally, I still felt like I was sort of operating as a freelancer. I had a couple
yeah,
1099 and whatnot. So, um, what it what we really looked into was the fact that it actually, because of the agreement that we have with Hype, is like 5 years, right? So it gave a little bit more structure, right? So it was basically going from sort of operating as a freelancer to actually having to own a business now, right? Franchise owner, got to get the P&Ls straightened out, got to get all the finances in the back end straightened out. So it was a no brainer in terms of everything, but it also allowed me to sort of have structure, still operating as an entrepreneur, sort of a solo business guy, but also having a massive team and just everything. So in terms of that whole side of things, it was a no brainer. And she knew that there was a couple people that I talked to that had merged previously with Height, that I talked to her about, while they did that, and I was like, something here. These guys are doing something pretty crazy. And when everything came back, it
who,
was just a no brainer.
who we shouting out?
Yeah, so yeah, Brad Akers and TJ.
Shout
Yeah,
out to DJ.
yeah, TJ. They were in a couple high mastermind groups, and this was, I think, like a close to a year into this mastermind group. I saw them merge with Height, and I was like, what is happening here? So I was able to see, sort of from a high level view of them going the same thing, solo business owners with their own sort of agency and merging with Height. So I kind of had an idea of what was happening. So yeah, those guys are crazy though. They're just really good guys, and they're crushing it. So good team.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the point that you're making here, to whether you're a new business owner or maybe even a more established one, is always take investing in yourself serious. Because I mean, that's what
Yeah.
you did. Like you said, there was an investment piece required.
Mhm.
I need that investment from wife to buy in, because hey, I need your support, because I know in theory what this gonna be like, but until we
Yeah,
start,
right.
so I think that's super important, and I see a lot of the successful agencies, they do that. They take a gamble, they bet on themselves, and they
Mhm.
come out better for it.
Yeah, it's and that's a talking about how would I what would I do at an earlier age, right? Is or try to do earlier in this whole process was to become confident in myself and in my abilities. And of course, it takes time, right? When you're starting new and you're trying to learn web design, you're always starting from a beginning standpoint, and it takes a while to sort of be able to build that confidence. So I think everything happened really at the right moment, where I had several years of just trying to find out what I was really capable of and really what I love doing, right? So,
Yeah.
Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, tried it all, right? Social media management, tried it all. And I found what I was really passionate about, which was web design. So, talking with a lot of other younger entrepreneurs and business owners who are in different niches and stuff, you know, um, I love to tell them that, like, take the time to be able to find out what you really like and what you dislike. A lot of the younger cats really kind of get discouraged nowadays with, they try something and doesn't work, and that's it, right? Well, that's okay. There's so many different things that you got to do along the way to be able to find out what it is that sort of clicks. So luckily, I think with the merger with Hyde, it happened all at the right time, and yeah, here we are.
I think that's a good point. Like, I don't want people to miss over that because, to your point, we get so caught up in trying to, let's try to do everything. Like, let's be great at everything. And I have to, especially if it brings me money. But I think that's super dope that you were able to say, like, you know what? Facebook ads, not for me. Hey, this right here, not for me. But this
Mhm.
thing right here, I'm going to triple down on
Yep.
and really go all in. So I think that's a super valuable lesson and insight to give for sure, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and it kind of like, and that can just be, there's so many different areas to sort of take from there, right? Like, in terms of operating a business, knowing what you're good at as well, right? So,
Yeah,
you know, knowing that, when things are, of course, when you were, operating on your own, you have to wear all different hats. We all do that. I still do it to this day, right?
yeah.
But finding out really, really quick what you're good at, what you're not good at, and being able to quote unquote outsource that, or find someone that can do a better job than you, and not letting the ego get in the way of that, right? Because there are
Oh,
people
wait, wait,
who,
wait. Oh, you dropping gems, bro. You gotta slow it down. All right, not letting your say that part again. Not letting your ego
Mhm,
get in the way.
mhm.
You gotta jump into that because that's a big one.
Yeah, and I think it's also, it's sort of tough nowadays too, because everything that we see on social media, right? Like, people are, it just seems like everyone's crushing it but you, right? So like, when you're in these circumstances, being able to really take a step back um and not be the one who wears all the hats. For instance, there's this example. My cousin, I love him to death, and he was the one who owned. He still owns the business prior, but um, he had an amazing. We had an amazing team, but he was still in the day to day stuff of like payroll and just all these different things that I was looking at him. I'm like, you're running a multi-million-dollar company. Like, there's things that you can sort of give off that's going to free up your time. And seeing him incredibly stressed, having to balance work and life, and then coming in late in the office and doing these different things, that always stuck with me because, I saw the stress that he was dealing with, and just him not being able to give up control over these different things, right? So, when we talk about creating our own business, we ultimately, I think we're all trying to do this for the financial freedom, or being able to spend more time with family, and that is, I think, one way to be able to do just that thing is making sure you understand what you're good at, what you don't want to do, and get other people to help that out.
Right. And so, to your point, I think that's super huge to acknowledge. Like, sometimes, yeah, we learn things like I went and studied, and sometimes we learn things because I saw this person and I said, you know what? Maybe that's not all it's hyped up to be. So
Mhm,
I need to do something different. And I think that's awesome because, I mean, to your point, right? Like, you would think, oh, somebody's running a multi-million-dollar company. They're living a life.
mhm,
And then you're like, bro, why you always stressed? Like,
mhm. And
that's
what's Yeah, and what was funny is because he, you know, as an entrepreneur himself, he got into a very similar situation that we all do, right? It's, starting being on your own, working your own hours, and you get to you get to a point where everything just sort of builds up, and you're stuck in your business. And
yeah.
I think ultimately having the awareness of early on, right, too, of like, no, like, if I'm a creative person, which I am, I love to create things. I love to build, design, art. Um, you know, Knowing that I'm not great at project management, knowing that I'm really, I think I can handle my own on the sales side of things, but ultimately, Or especially with what you do, the financial part of it, right? Making sure that someone who knows what they're doing can have my back and not have to worry about that type of thing is just crucial. So establishing that early, I think, would be definitely beneficial for sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Cool. So that's family. All right. So now, of course, which people can see right there in the background, you got the kid.
Mhm,
So how did business change? Because I know that there's some people that like, all right, my spouse is, pregnant. So maybe they're about to get the new feel of like running a business plus having a baby, or maybe they're going from kid one to now I'm about to have two, or in my case, two to three. So,
mhm.
like, what are some things that you noticed that you are willing to give up and change in order to, which I'm making an assumption here, spend the proper or the time you want with your son?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's still he's 2 years old, and it's still like this balancing act, I think a little bit, right? And I had you on my podcast. We kind of dived in a little bit about what that looks like, and I think it's taken a while for my wife and I to kind of get some boundaries in place in terms of when it's easier for her a little bit because she has sort of like a regular 9 to 5 job, comes home and is able to shut down. But for me as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you understand too, that it's just hard to be able to, turn everything off, right? So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
over this last year, I think I've tried to do better personally of having somewhat of a routine to shut down on, whether it's just something in my to-do list of checking emails one last time at 5 o'clock, and that's really it. If there's any type of emergency, obviously answer the phone, but there's been times, man, where especially when he's older now and he's 2 years old and he's running around and being a crazy little guy, that I want to be as present with him as humanly possible. And so there were situations where I was on the couch and he was wanting to play and whatnot, and I find myself on the phone checking emails, and it just was I forgot what it was, but there was just something that was like crushing to me, that was like, dude, this kid's not going to be 2 years old anymore, right? Or for that long. So yeah, it hit home to be present, and I think that's ultimately what got me to really hunker down and be able to set boundaries within the business, going from work to life. It's a constant balancing act. I think we're still working at it, but that's something that I've been trying to do this over this last year. Yeah.
So what are some of those things that in the efforts to spend more time, like a lot of people I've heard some craziness on this
Mhm.
podcast. Like I know some people are like, hey, we do a day trip like every other quarter. Some people are like, hey, I'm at every single practice.
Mhm.
Some people are like, hey, we do morning coffees. I
Mhm.
know in our case on Saturdays is pancake day. So
Yeah.
like what are some of the things that you guys do to stay connected as a family?
Yeah.
Because to your point, it is hard to cut off. We our brains just don't stop because we're
Mhm.
responsible for everything. So, what are some things that you found you were able to institute or just do on a consistent basis that kind of keeps everybody like this is what we can look forward to?
Yeah, our Wednesdays for sure. So my wife has Wednesday off. So my son goes to my mother-in-law's and my parents' house both twice a week, right? So Monday, Tuesday he's with one side, Thursday, Friday he's with the other. So on Wednesdays my wife it doesn't work. So we are able to sort of have family day on Wednesdays, and that's really ultimately why I kind of wanted to start my own business, was to be able to, when we grow a family, have a family, be able to have that time to spend. So we really, I mean, honestly, we really love going to the beach. We're 10 minutes away from the ocean here. We only get a couple of really good months here in New Hampshire for summer. So if it's not at the beach, it's really by the pool or something outside. Again, he's 2-year-old guy. It's a lot of work, but yeah, we love just going to the beach, and I think our Wednesdays we look forward to that ultimately, because my wife's home, he's home. I might work a half day on Wednesday, and the rest of the afternoon once he gets up from his nap is family time. So definitely we look forward to that. Yeah.
So how do you okay, here's a trick question.
Okay.
So with Wednesday being a half day,
Mhm.
how do you get your brain off? Because I know like I've done half days before, but the
Mhm.
rest of it I'm like, oh man. What's going on? Oh man, what's going on in my email? Oh
Yep.
man, I forgot to do like how does that
Mhm.
play out for you in real time?
I ultimately honestly, this might be bad to say, but I basically have to shut everything off almost. And know that
Computers off, phones off.
yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's and knowing I think knowing prior, right? Like it's just not like a on the whim on a Thursday, maybe we have an hour to do something, right? It's sort of set in stone where Wednesdays are that day. Um, so knowing that it's sort of built into the schedule, I think ultimately helps. But it's unless and also having to acknowledge the fact that overall, all my clients are doing well, and there's no really big fires to put out. So again, it's sort of acknowledging that what could be a fire to put out is not ultimately a fire. We'll get to it, but for I think I can personally take 4 hours on a Wednesday and hang out with the family. So I have to just try to do my thing and just shut everything off. I think and have it in the schedule as a concrete thing that we try to do every Wednesday. I think helps as well with that.
I think to your earlier point though, and I think like a part of that is to me at least, sounds like you don't have the ego. Like you're like, you know what? They're gonna be all right. I don't have
Mhm.
to come in and save the day. I have a team that can help.
Certainly.
I've communicated it so they will be all right. And I know for me that's hard. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's not even, I don't want to say it's an ego, but it is because well, I got to come save the day. And it's so hard to know. My team has it.
Mhm.
They are qualified or else they wouldn't be on the team,
Mhm.
and they'll be there tomorrow. That work is not going anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and then just the control aspect. I think it happens in all sort of facets of business. But I built. I think personally, I built over like 100 and something websites, right? So I thought I had a really good idea about what it took to build websites. So joining with Height, having a really great creative team that are basically all experts, that was a really hard part for me to kind of give up control of, right? So it's in being sort of nitpicky around things, but ultimately giving them control and being like, yes, the team's going to crush it. They always do. I can definitely be hands off, and that definitely is, and really in all aspects of life, I think, is in being present and really kind of checking your ego out the door when it comes down to those type of things. So.
That's a great point. Okay, so we're still on kids. So now he's two. So I mean, we're talking 16 to 20 years in the future. What would you hope as he's growing up and becoming a young man that he's gonna get from this path that you're blazing? Like you didn't just join hype just because it's flashy. You didn't join it, to be recognized in magazines. Like you joined it for a purpose. And I'm sure legacy had a big part of that. So what do you hope that your son gets from seeing dad being a business owner?
Yeah, man, that's a really really solid question. You know, I ultimately I want him to. I think the entrepreneurial spirit is something that I learned to such an older age. Like I never grew up. I never had any entrepreneurs in my family. It was strictly school, go to school, graduate, get a job, right? That's it. And so
Yeah.
um, finding what it's like to be an entrepreneur at a younger age, I think might have paved some different paths. But here I am. So ultimately, I want him to be able to see um, a guy who's able to balance out work and life and not be totally consumed with work. Another story. My father, who I love dearly, is very much someone who put his life into work. And when I was younger, he was be around, be at the practices and so forth. But at some point, when he got really into his job, traveling overseas quite a bit, and just you can tell that when he worked, he came home, he had to do like 2 more hours of work. And I kind of grew up seeing that where there's got to be more to that, right? And he was able to support us and put us through college. So there's so many things that I'm just incredibly grateful for his hard work, and I took that away, as well as how hard he can work. But for me, it was seeing that there's no balance here. It's really just all about work at, and so I think for him, I just would want to see him being able to see me as a sort of an example of what you can do if you're passionate about something. Don't be afraid to try different things, um, whether it's art or music or acting. Go full in, try it out, see what happens. But ultimately, I think it's the work-life balance, being able to see how important family is, and being able to establish that as I grow up. Uh,
Okay, that's a good one. That's would you want him to work in the business with you? Because I've heard some people, you know what? I'd rather them go out and then they come back. Some people are like, if
Mhm.
they want to jump in at 18, I'm all for it. Bump college, jump in.
Yeah, that's I mean, if he shows that he's interested in learning what I'm doing, and shows any type of interest, sure, I would love, cuz it's just it'd be more about marketing, right? You can get the project management side of things. You can see how that works. You can get the sales side. You can sort of see how that works, right? So there's different things within the business that he might be able to pick up.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm really I think would really, if he's at all interested in what I'm doing, sure, I can definitely show him, and maybe there'll be some cool things to pick up. But uh yeah, ultimately it's up to him to decide what he wants to do and what he's passionate about. If he wants to work with dad, that's great.
Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. All right. So now let's get more into like these lessons. So as you've been a business owner, what would you say are two or three things maybe that being an owner has taught you about yourself? Because you've been in corporate,
Mhm.
so you know what that's like. But man, I didn't know that me being a business owner would show me.
Yeah. It definitely shows you where you are more vulnerable, right? So there was things, right? So for instance, money is not really my strong suit, and the finances, right? So that was one big thing that I learned rather quickly. That having to have someone help out, and luckily, I have my parents can help me out right now, and we're pushing along and so forth. But one of it is just the vulnerability that you get from being on your own. You find out really really quickly where you excel and where you don't excel, and in having to sort of take that next step and 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 push forward. Um, Another thing that I learned rather quickly was accountability in yourself, right? Because owning your own business, sure, I could wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning. If obviously, if you don't have children or whatever, wake up at 9. Do this, do that. Check some emails here and there. We're able to make our own hours, but um, you know, it was it there's been times where I have to check myself, right? Because I could be playing video games right now, but I actually have to work, right? So it's that sort of accountability thing that that goes into it as well. So those were two probably the biggest things. One, I saw rather quickly, the things that I'm good and not good at, as an entrepreneur, and then accountability for sure. Being able to set hours, being able to really be able to sit down, get to work when I need to, and not mess around, that type of thing.
Okay, biggest thing you learned last year.
Biggest thing I look finances, financials, financials for sure.
Oh, you know, like almost like the Bible around here on
Yeah.
our side.
I mean, that would, dude, honestly, like if we're talking like business stuff, business related, the one thing I learned a lot about was getting finances in order. It took a while. I was able to sort of get it done. We're in a good place right now, I think. But that was the biggest thing for business. And I think personally it was the work-life balance. Um, you know, when we first merged with Hype, we didn't have the baby here, so it was just my wife and I. It was a lot of bit, a little easier, a little more flexible. But now, with the little guy around, it's again, it's more of having to juggle that work life balance, and making sure that we have our family time and we have time to get work done. So,
Okay, cool. So here's a good one. So All right, you said like, all right, we got the finances in order. I'm holding myself accountable. I have a much bigger team now. I'm into the Chick-fil-A of marketing agencies. What would you say are 2 to 3 practices that contribute to your success? Like if I didn't do A, B, and C, man, I would really be stunned my growth. Or doing A, B, and C really helps me to be at maximum efficiency.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely the main one for me was being able to set my schedule and my calendar, getting that sort of locked
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
That because I'm not if you I'm not I can easily be someone who's a fly by the seat type of guy, right? So, if something happens throughout the day, sure, let's do it, right? Whereas if for me, I actually needed to have a set schedule and a concrete plan going into the day. So, for sure, in the morning, waking up and just going over the calendar, just checking it really quick, seeing what I have in terms of meetings, calls, that so forth, and then checking at the end of the day as well. So, I have a platform app that I use, Todoist. It's just like tasks management type of deal. So at the end of the day, before I sort of shut everything down, I reflect on a day and also look at the next day, and what it is that I have to accomplish for tasks for the next day. Get that all done. So it's sort of like a brain dump almost.
Yeah.
Where once I sort of shut everything off, I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about like what's going to be happening tomorrow. It's already there.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really, I think that's probably like the biggest thing, is ultimately getting the schedule in place. When I first started, I did have all the morning routine, work and meditation and affirmation and stuff like that. And I do bits and pieces of that for sure. Like about 3 days a week, I'll kind of journal and do some affirmations. I'll read here and there. A little bit less strict on the morning routine wise, but I do the meditation part though. I have continued to do, and I think it really has helped in terms of one, checking the ego, but also being present throughout the day. And when crises arrive, right? When there's absolute fires that need to be put out, you're able to kind of think clearly. So those are things that I'm still continuing with my morning routine. So I guess to answer your question, one is making sure my schedule, my calendar is on point. I have things ready to go. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I know what I did today, and also some facets of a morning routine. Uh, I guess.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Cool. Now this is a popular one right here, and this one may be a little deep.
Okay.
High school or college version of Logan
hmm
lived up to this point. What do you go back and tell him that you feel like, man, I needed to hear, fill in the blank, at high school or my college self?
Yeah, man. I would say be confident in yourself. Um, I think confidence was a big thing. Um, yeah, it was kind of crazy back in high school. And even up to several years ago, I never really had an idea of really what I wanted to do, right? And it was going almost against like what my father and my parents were saying. Whereas I did go to school and so forth, but that was sort of the trajectory that they ultimately wanted to go, have me go down. And um, you know I think if I had a little bit more built-in confidence at the time, that I might have done some things differently. So that's probably where I would go about taking that. Is that it's okay to be confident within yourself. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try different things. And ultimately just do things for the right reason, and things will pan out. Yeah. I mean, there was some times in high school where things got a bit sketchy. Luckily, I had some great resources around me,
Yeah.
to be able to pull me back from several things. Um, but yeah, confidence in yourself. Don't be afraid to fail, and uh, you know, don't be afraid to fail. Really.
All right. Okay. Wait. So I see the green. So don't be afraid to fail. Let's jump
Mhm,
into that because I think like as a business owner, that's huge. Like it in me just being transparent, that's something that I'm constantly dealing with because to your point, like you're doing something you haven't seen before, or you're trying to do it in a different way or capacity.
mhm.
So I'm curious to see how do you combat that? Like, okay, do you just psych yourself up? Is it something that you went through that you pull from some type of prior experience? How do you, I guess, I don't know if I'm saying hype yourself up to, how do you deal with it? Being
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the mindset of, the more you fail, the faster you are to, I guess, a winning solution, right? So,
Okay.
I kind of flipped the mindset on that where, and again, it kind of comes down to checking the ego thing because a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, I failed, my life's ruined," and they kind of just dig themselves into holes from a mental standpoint. So I think for me, it's really about flipping that around, and the more that I fail in finding, if I'm trying to do something, the more I fail, the quicker I am going to be able to get to an answer or a success. So I know it's the failing is part of the journey to it. Um, and then, yeah, I think I've always just been someone who like doesn't give an F about ultimately what like anyone says about me or whatever, as long as I personally know that I'm sticking to my guns and who I am as a person. I could honestly care less. And if it's a failing at something that I feel is a right path and um that I want to be on, then it is what it is. You just keep pushing. So yeah, I think it's just flipping it from a negative to a positive spin on the failing side of things. I think that's what I do.
It's part of the journey. That's a good way to.
It's part of the journey, dude. It's part of the journey. It's part of the journey, dude. I'm sure you have too, man. Just failed so many different times in different ventures and businesses and life and things like that. And there's a lot that you take away from those experiences. But in business, it's you're gonna take your L's. You're gonna take your losses. It's just
Yeah.
part of the game, and being able to stick to the road and putting in time and getting to where you want to be. Because a lot of people will fail within a year and they'll close up shop or so, and they're just like, oh, it doesn't work. So it's a testament to being able to keep pushing forward. Like,
Sometimes something sounds so good and you like, I just need to let that sit. That's that's a good point. Okay, okay. Yeah. Is that what you would say? High school and college version need to hear the same thing?
um,
The reason
yeah,
is
yeah,
because for me, high school camp was way different than
yeah.
college camp. So
Oh,
they needed to hear two completely different.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, man. I mean, I think the confidence thing was definitely a high school thing, and I would say, probably the don't be afraid to fail thing was more or less in college. I guess, because again, it's weird. It's a weird experience, a weird thing where you just don't know what it is you want to do, and I was a quote unquote a wanderer for a while. Where my sister, she knew early in high school she wanted to become a dental hygienist for whatever reason. I don't know. I have no clue why, but she's doing that now. She loves it. But she knew early on, and I was always like, sort of like, why can't I
No.
figure that out, right? Like how easy life would be if you know what you wanted to do and are doing it and things are going great. Like that seems amazing. So as much as I went through life, I had every sort of job you could ever possibly imagine. And it wasn't to such a later age where I was like, wait, maybe I am made to or built to be an entrepreneur, right? So like
Yeah.
I think maybe having someone or classes or someone to introduce me at an earlier age, even high school or college, to being like, man, the world's changing. It's not the graduate school 9 to 5 thing anymore. Like,
Yeah.
there's different ways to jump in and create a life for yourself and for your family. So if I heard that earlier, I think it might have been very, very helpful.
Okay, so let's roll with that. So to the newer marketing agency owner, so maybe he's the young 25, 26-year old, maybe he's just married, no kid, or maybe just had his first kid.
Mhm.
What would you tell them? I mean, because you got the experience, right? I've been in corporate, I was solo when it's just me, and now I'm joining the Chick-fil-A of marketing agency. What would, if you could go to, let's say this guy's in year two, he got 10. Year one, I made 80 grand and I wasn't even doing it all the way. I'm really looking to push forward.
Mhm.
What are some things, I don't know if you would say you'd warn him or be careful about this or don't get caught up in this or really focus on this? What would you tell him?
Yeah, I mean, if they're in that, I think it just comes down to like where they are in I guess life in itself, right? So separate from business. If you're a 25-year-old, maybe have a girlfriend, boyfriend, no family, no kids, I would say get after it, right? Like you have a prime opportunity to put in some time into work and to sort of build that
Yeah.
legacy. So there's that. Whereas, if someone has a family, it would be, I don't know if it'd be more of a conservative approach, but um, I would also say again, finding what you're really good at, and really don't be afraid to give work to others that you're not good at. So finding really, really quickly what you excel at. If you're a sales guy, sell. Anything else, just have a team to kind of take that off your plate, right? Because that's going to scale your business and grow your business faster. Having yourself being pulled in multiple different directions where you absolutely do not want to be in, it's just going to bring so much, I wouldn't say negativity, but it will bring your energy level down and you're not going to be able to have time to sort of be on the outside of things. So, yeah, it just, if you're younger, in again, I bring back, I have an amazing friend, Amir, that I work with, and 20, 24, 25 years old kid who has done a couple things and things hasn't really gone the way that he's liked so far. But I keep telling him, like, bro, you are so young right now. Keep trying different
You have a
things.
huge runway. You can do
Yeah.
all.
And he's super technical and digital stuff. I'm like, man, he built apps and programs and all this crazy stuff. I'm like, dude, you like, don't be afraid to fail. Just keep trying different things. Something will stick. And it's just sort of finding where that is. And we both talked to Russ Perry, but from Design Pickle.
Shout out to
Um,
Rush Perry.
yeah, and he said something too that I took away was, experience, having enough experience. He talked about his life and his journey of business and so forth. And there were so many different things of different jobs that he had that led him into a direction where he was able to create ultimately Design Pickle. And I think I was like, wow, that really hit home. So, when I was sitting back being this wanderer, right, going in different jobs and whatnot, ultimately I was picking up experience in different sort of facets of business and different things. And I think that that path might have sent me in this trajectory to marketing. I mean, that's sort of like the takeaway, the takeaway that I took from that. So, yeah, those would be the things that I would say to anyone of a younger audience for sure.
Yeah, and I mean to your point, like we've even had that conversation with clients where it's like, hey, yeah, you have these four services. Yeah, this is the one that generates the most money, but you told me you don't like to do it. And I'm like, we
Sure.
have to think 20 years from now, we want you to still be doing this, not doing something you hate.
Sure.
Even though number two revenue generator isn't the most profitable in terms of who makes the most money, you enjoy that. So how can
Mhm.
we shift that time over? How can we put more energy into that? Can we move the people from, the top one to, and you'd be surprised where people are like, I didn't even recognize that I was putting all this time into the one
Yeah.
that's the energy suck.
Mhm.
So I think that's very good that you're so keen on being self-aware with who you are, what
Mhm.
I want, what makes my heart happy. Let me I'm gonna outsource that.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very admirable because like to your point, ego, and maybe that's just a male thing. Like oh no, I got it. I can help it. I got it.
Yeah.
You're a business owner, give it up.
Yeah. 100%, man.
All right,
Absolutely.
cool. Well, I think this is the end because I know you got to keep saving the world, building more websites and all of that. So we always use this end time for you to, a tell people how to get in contact with you because they may say, you know what, I like this guy. He seems real cool and chill.
Mhm.
I'm in, that same area where he is. I want to work with them. How do they do that? How do they get in contact, email, etc.?
Yeah, so my email is lhughes, LHUGHES at HITEDigital.com. I have a podcast too that just started. I got you on here not too long ago. It's called the getajobpodcast.com. Go ahead and check that out. As well, you can find me on Facebook. I love talking through Facebook for whatever reason. That seems like a pretty good channel that I communicate with. So I'm just on just Logan Hughes. You look me up, you'll see, a green profile picture there. On Instagram, Logan underscore Hughes underscore height. But yeah, if you're on Facebook, look me up and we'll chat. So that's really where I love to be at.
Who is your like ideal client? I don't know if we got into that, but like this industry or this niche
Mhm.
is
Yeah, it's a good question, man. That's recently shifted, but in terms of success, we have a lot of success in just really service based businesses, right? HVAC, electrical, tree care, pest control,
the service.
um,
Okay, home.
services.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
home services. Yeah, we're just generating such good success in those fields, and um,
Success like making them how much more money, Logan?
yeah, no, there's been a lot of, I mean, there's in terms of the numbers right off the head, there's an HVAC company last month that did 339 leads that came in that were majority of qualified, and we had an electrical business that last month, like again, did like 240 leads. They're looking to go from 6 fans to 8, and I just got an email this morning being like, hey, we're growing. What can we do to grow more? So we're
So
getting some really, yeah, they're at 6 vans. They want to have 8 vans out. So that's something that we're going to talk about. Like, how can we expand marketing strategies to be able to for them to hit those numbers? So, yeah, home service businesses is really where we're keen on. But I've had clients and built websites for ministers, for people in the spiritual community. So like I'm not one to kind of shelve off if the project is good. So and I can
but
help.
if you a home service, you see, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but from the accounting side, if you going from 6 vans to 8 vans, I don't know how many more jobs that is, but that's enough for you to buy 2 vans.
Yep,
So
sure.
clearly, what they're doing is working. Tell them the email one more time, just in
Yep,
case they couldn't find their phone or a
yep,
pad or something. How
absolutely.
do
So
they get in touch?
yep, it's L Hughes, LHUGHES at Height Digital, HITE Digital.com. That's where you can email me and we can chat about whatever, man. Yep.
All right, there you go. So you heard it here. Oh, give them another shout out to the podcast. I don't want them to miss that either.
Yeah, just heard a podcast. It's called the Get a Job Podcast, and it's just really talking to entrepreneurs, not even from the business side of, but also artists, musicians, anyone who's really been able to take what they're passionate about and build a really great business for themselves and for their family, just to encourage others who are on the sideline or thinking about taking that jump to not be worried about that, to go in and believe in yourself and take that leap. So hopefully there's a lot of value there that we have a guest on, including yourself. So yeah, it's been a fun time so far.
All right, cool. And we're gonna make sure we put that link in there so y'all can
Yep.
check that out too. All right, y'all. Well, of course, we can't keep people on here all day. They gotta go keep saving the world and doing what they're doing. So we appreciate you guys, Logan. We thank you for coming.
Thanks,
Hopefully
brother.
you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share it with somebody who you're like, you know what, they could really hear this or they can really do something with this message. Until then, y'all know we're gonna keep bringing some great guests. Of course, we're always working to bring you guys the best. Hopefully, you guys are taking something away and learning something. So until the next time, this is Legacy's Journey. Everybody be safe, stay blessed. Peace.